Happy Mock Draft Monday, everybody. Welcome to my first 3-round mock draft of the season. But first, this is going to be a 2-part video, so make sure you hit that like button down below, because once this video gets to 1,000 likes, I will drop rounds 2 and 3. Also, guys, if you enjoy my draft content, take out your phones, set a reminder for April 29th, a reminder to come back here on YouTube to join me for my live draft stream. That'll be for days 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be a riot this year. Going to be able to put up live highlights of these players for the first time. Going to have my fiance here updating the graphics, doing live grades as we go. It is going to be super fun. I know you have a lot of options to consume the draft live, so I appreciate you spending that time with me. I am just so looking forward to it. So let's get into it. We got a lot of picks to talk about. This is, per usual, going to be a what I would do mock draft, placing myself in the GM chair of all 32 teams, making the best decision for each team based on my own personal draft board. So here we go, starting with the first overall pick. And I tweeted this morning, I said that Jags are not gonna like my mock draft today, but I don't care. And that's not gonna start here, don't worry. Trevor Lawrence is still the pick, even though that gap between Lawrence and Wilson is very tight for me. I'm still gonna take Trevor Lawrence here. If you take Zach Wilson and he is not good and Trevor Lawrence is good and you're the GM, you're just asking to get fired. So we're gonna take who we should with Trevor Lawrence. And then the Jets grabbing Zach Wilson, even more of an obvious pick now that Sam Darnold has been traded. But I've been right there with Zach Wilson this whole time at number 2 for the Jets. And then number 3, San Francisco taking Justin Fields. This again is a what I would do mock draft, but I don't buy into the Mac Jones smokescreen is really what I think it is. You come up here to take a high upside prospect like Justin Fields. And even though he is my QB3, I would actually bet that he becomes the most accomplished quarterback of anybody in this class because of the landing spot. I mean, you pair this athleticism and the accuracy and the work ethic with this organization, this team, this system. I mean, freaking Nick Mullins is second all time in passing yards in his first 16 starts. Can't wait to see what Justin Fields can do here. So pretty easy top 3. And then number 4 with the Atlanta Falcons, obviously shopping this pick. But on both sides, I don't know if I'm selling the farm for the 4th quarterback in this class at this price mark, which is going to be probably at least an extra first-round pick to go get Trey Lance. But inversely for Atlanta, you're probably going to have to come down to the 9th pick, with Denver would be the earliest you can get. And then you're seriously jeopardizing getting Pitts or Chase or Sewell, one of the elite players in this class. And I'm not really willing to do that. So I'm going to take Kyle Pitts and put him back in here with, yes, you have Hayden Hurst, but with Arthur Smith coming in there, you're going to run a ton of 12 personnel, and he's going to be a lethal weapon. Basically Jonnu Smith on steroids for Arthur Smith here. And you, with Matt Ryan, you put him back to what he had in his MVP season with A, the Shanahan system, and B, in the conversation for the best weapons in the NFL. So you're putting everything you can in position for Matt Ryan to get back to that level here after you pushed his contract down the road, basically ensuring that he's going to be there for a few more years. Then the Cincinnati Bengals with the 5th overall pick, taking Penei Sewell. Whoever I grab here, whether it's Sewell or Chase, I'm going to have half of the Bengals fanhood coming after me. I'm taking Sewell here because, yes, this tackle class is deep. I do understand that. But the drop-off from tackle here compared to what you're going to be getting at 38 is significantly larger than the drop-off in receiver talent that will be available in the 30 with that 38th pick, or maybe you trade up. I don't know. But as much as I love Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell is the pick here. It's not just about protecting Joe Burrow either. Sewell is an elite move-blocking run blocker who just might be the best at that, not ever, but, in the last 5 to 10 years. He's insane, and that will allow Zach Taylor to get back into his comfort zone as that move wide zone offense. He comes from the McVay Shanahan roots, so you get the offensive coordinator a little more comfortable, you get the quarterback more comfortable, and hey, I'm pretty sure Joe Mixon is still your highest paid offensive player, so you make him happy and you get him some room to operate too. I love Joe Mixon. He's one of the more underrated players in the league. He just never gets any blocking. So it opens everything up here. You can still get a great receiver somewhere else in this draft. So I'm a Sewell guy. I understand Jamar Chase either. I don't think you can truly go wrong, but Sewell is the pick for me. And then the Miami Dolphins, Ja'Marr Chase. I've talked about how he fits in here. Basically, he's the best player available here. He doesn't open up the offense necessarily, but he is kind of that last missing piece. He fits really well with the other guys you have in place there. So Ja'Marr Chase for the Dolphins at 6, pretty straightforward. And then the Detroit Lions at number 7 with Sewell, Chase, and Pitts all gone. Not that I would really take Pitts for Detroit anyway, but with them gone, I'm looking to move down and try to get some value for Trey Lance, who's still sitting there. And we're going to move up with the Denver Broncos. And this is extremely straightforward. This roster is loaded, absolutely loaded. But if you don't figure this quarterback situation out, none of it's going to freaking matter, Denver. So you got to find a quarterback, whether this lights a fire under Drew Lock's ass and he becomes the guy, reaches his potential, fantastic. Trade Trey Lance, it doesn't matter. You found your quarterback. If Lock doesn't work out, you go to Trey Lance, see if he can reach that potential. You gotta make a move. You gotta get, to me, one of the top 4 quarterbacks in this class. Yeah, Mac Jones would be fine, but I want that upside at that quarterback position. Then Carolina at pick number 8. This is probably worst case scenario for them with Pitts, Sewell, and Chase all gone. So I am going to look to trade down. The pick would probably be Rashawn Slater if I had to stay put, but I did find a dance partner here, and it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals coming up for one of my ideal landing spots if it can happen, and that is Jaylen Waddle to the Arizona Cardinals. I've talked a lot about this. If you missed my podcast from a couple weeks ago of the best fits, the best landing spots, this was one of them. Jaylen Waddle to the Arizona Cardinals. I've talked in depth about Kyler Murray's inability really to throw over the middle of the field. So do what, say, Seattle does by making the outside perimeter passing game elite, adding a DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Here, Jaylen Waddle into this offense, open it up vertically, giving you what they were hoping they could get in Andy Isabella. It just hasn't worked out. And beyond that, Jaylen Waddle is an elite catch and run guy. He's going to be the perfect weapon on all of the bubble screens that Cliff Kingsbury likes to run here. So I love this fit. You're giving up your 2nd round pick. So Carolina moves down. You're going to basically look at a similar collection of tackle talent and pick up another top 50 pick after you gave up a future 2nd rounder for Sam Darnold. Then the Detroit Lions, where we move down, it's going to be Devontae Smith. He's not necessarily a kneecap biter for Dan Campbell here at 170 pounds, 6 foot. So a very slender receiver, but he does have the tough mindset, I think, to come in here and endure a little bit of a rebuild. He's obviously going to want to win, but he's going to have a decent quarterback throwing him the football in Jared Goff, who is going to need a true number 1 receiver there. Detroit moving down to get Devontae Smith, pick up a 3rd rounder, a 4th rounder next year. Pretty good deal for them. Then the Dallas Cowboys with the 10th pick, Patrick Surtain. Very simple. We've done this pretty much every mock draft. This has got to be the biggest lock outside of the top 3 in the real draft. And then the Giants getting an ideal fit for them, Micah Parsons. He was I mentioned that podcast earlier for the ideal fits for each team. This was it for the Giants. I mean, if you want to go back and listen to more depth about that, you can check it out. But basically, they run a very multiple front with their linebackers. So Parsons will be a true middle linebacker, an off-ball linebacker. But all of these conversations about him moving to edge, well, Patrick Graham and that defense will utilize him at the right times in some of those edge spots where he has those elite traits to potentially be phenomenal for that role in that defense. So I love the scheme fit, the need, the just positional, the value in general. He is a top 10 player in this class. You're getting him at 11. So love this pick for the Giants. Then the Philadelphia Eagles. This was a much harder selection. With all those top 3 receivers gone, it's tough. It's tough here for Philadelphia, who frankly doesn't have a lot of glaring needs, really, like linebacker. Corner's a big need, a little early for J.C. Horn, in my opinion, with Surtain gone. So I really struggled with this. I tried to trade down. I couldn't find a dance partner. So I settled on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I don't love it, but it is fine. Like, he's a top 22 player in this class. It's a big need. It's their biggest need. He's going to be a day 1 impact for them. So I think Eagles fans could live with this in kind of a worst case doomsday scenario. But after you had that 6th pick and you could have had like Ja'Marr Chase, it does leave a little bit of a stain in your mouth, but you're going to have that first rounder next year, and maybe that turns into an actual quarterback for the future here. So, yeah, again, not ideal for Philadelphia, but it's the best I could do. I would love to trade down there, but I couldn't. Then with the 13th pick, the Chargers getting Rashawn Slater. My goodness, this would be a dream for them. He, to me, is the most pro-ready of the tackles from a pass protection standpoint. You plug him right in there at left tackle. And beyond that, I've even heard some rumblings that the Chargers are going to be implementing some of the Shanahan wide zone offense to the playbook this year, which Rashawn Slater, he has the best get off and speed to climb to the second level that I've ever seen, I think, from an offensive lineman, at least from a college prospect. Trent Williams in the NFL, it's comparable to his ability to get to spots on those wide zones. So I just love everything about this. I'm going to try not to say that about every pick. Then the Minnesota Vikings, same idea here. Christian Darrisaw. Vikings run that wide zone offense. And Christian Darrisaw, while Slater is one of the best I've seen, Darrisaw is up there. And he has more of the size to be more of a Trent Williams physical comparison. But anyway, I've had the Vikings trading down, maybe targeting an Elijah Vera Tucker later in the draft to recoup some extra picks. But in this scenario where Christian Darrisaw is available, you know, Ezra Cleveland, he showed enough at guard for me to say you can be one of our guards. And then to get a potentially elite talent in Christian Darrisaw, because I don't think Elijah Vera Tucker is going to be an elite talent. I think he's a day one starter. But you put Darrisaw and you pair him with Brian O'Neill, you have actually an elite, young, uber athletic tackle duo. You would have by far the most athletic tackle duo. And they're going to grow up now with Gary Kubiak's son as the offensive coordinator. That's pretty much like, you can't pass it up. I thought about trading down, but the second I saw Christian Darrisaw next to the Vikings, I was like, yes, that is it. Because Ezra Cleveland could probably play left tackle, but he's not going to do it in this system at the level that Christian Darrisaw does. And you already saw some flashes from Cleveland at guard, so just keep him there. And then New England at 15, with Mac Jones falling into their lap, you do take him here. Now, I don't know if that derails your plans to start Cam Newton this year necessarily, because I like what they've got going with sort of this potentially elite run game with that extra added number in the run game with Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton day one is still going to be a better processor, decision maker, and take better care of the football potentially than Mac Jones. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Cam Newton is out right away, but we all know Cam Newton is not a sustainable long-term piece at quarterback at this point. So Mac Jones actually gets some time to kind of compete and maybe develop. Yes, he is pro-ready, but any quarterback's going to benefit from not getting thrown in too early and potentially developing bad tendencies. So I love this spot for Mac Jones if they don't have to trade up and give up a ton to do it, because it's not like he's some immense high upside guy. But they love Jimmy Garoppolo, they love Tom Brady, and Mac Jones is in that category of pocket passers that do have functional mobility in the pocket. Then we have the Carolina Panthers, where we traded down, going to be grabbing Samuel Cosmi. This was the game plan. Move down and target one of these top 5 tackles to me that are all top 20 players. Samuel Cosmi would be a top 10 pick in a lot of draft classes. And I actually have him below Tevin Jenkins on my overall board. But because it's so close, and we do have a right tackle in place here at Carolina, I am going to take the guy that is comfortable at left tackle. To use the words of Josh Sitton, learning to play the other side of the offensive line is like learning how to wipe with your other hand. So if it's close, I'm going to take the guy that's comfortable at left. And then the Las Vegas Raiders are going to take Tevin Jenkins, a rare scenario where the Las Vegas Raiders are actually taking a true first-round talent at a position of value in the first round. So Tevin Jenkins is going to plug right in at right tackle when you let Trent Brown go. And honestly, Jenkins has a higher upside than Trent Brown, who's a phenomenal right tackle. But Jenkins, as a pass protector, is much more polished. And I actually like him as a run blocker better because he gets off the ball better. Even though he isn't as big as Trent Brown, he's going to be able to offer a little more on wide zones. He's going to be able to climb to the second level better on duo runs. So I glow about this pick. It'd be a phenomenal fit. He's a Gruden grinder. He's ready to go. Day one, boom, bada boom. Then the 18th pick, the Miami Dolphins, struggled with this one as well because you're kind of regretting, honestly, not trading up for a tackle. I do see a pretty significant drop-off now after those top 5, to the point that at 18, I don't know who I'm taking that's going to guarantee an upgrade at this point in time. So I'm actually going to look elsewhere on the offensive line, because for me, it's all about getting Tua all of the help he can get and ensure that you get a fair evaluation on Tua. And yes, right tackle to me is an issue. Robert Hunt was fine. I don't love that, but he's starting caliber at least for next year. That center spot right now is a glaring eyesore. They went cheap in free agency with, who was it? The guy, Skura from Baltimore. You can ask Ravens fans. You don't want to lean on him, especially in pass protection. So I'm going to take Landon Dickerson. We know they like Alabama players, and he's going to slot right in there. Now, he's actually technically my number 2 center. I talked about this in my interior offensive line breakdown. It really comes down to scheme for me with Dickerson and Humphrey. I do think Dickerson's a better pass protector day one. He's just not quite as mobile. If you were like in a wide zone offense, for example, he might not have the athletic upside. But in this system, where they do like to run a lot of power and they need that better pass protection, I'm going to go with Landon Dickerson. So there's the pick for Miami, upgrading the offensive line. And then the Washington football team at 19, I actually couldn't settle on anything. I was kind of eyeing Trayvon Merrick here, but it's very rich for me. If I can get value and move down, maybe get Merrick later, that's a good target for me for Washington. And there is a trade up here that makes so much sense in the world. And as an owner of Cleveland Browns Super Bowl futures right now, I would be very happy to see them make this move, coming up to 19 to take Christian Barmore, who is going to go a lot higher than people realize on draft night. I'll be very surprised if he is not a top 21 pick. I will just say that. So Barmore is very underrated as far as his upside as a pass rusher. No, he can't defend the run. Who cares? You can find run defenders. They have one on their team in Andrew Billings. So you can take Andrew Billings off the field after first down, and nobody cares that Christian Barmore is a poor run defender, especially when you got Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett next to the frickin' guy. So Christian Barmore here, you can't double team everybody. And they just cut Sheldon Richardson, by the way. So this is actually kind of a glaring need for them. Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, Christian Barmore, they picked up Malik Jackson. Good freaking luck blocking this front with a young secondary behind him. Ooh, okay. Love that for Cleveland. Then my number 20 pick, the Chicago Bears. Tough spot here. You know, they're just sitting there. Andy Dalton's quarterback. Just kind of go corner, offensive line, whoever's the best player available. Yeah, they got Jalen Johnson. They picked up Desmond Trufant, who's a Band-Aid. I'm going to take J.C. Horn, who could potentially be an alpha corner for you to be a good complement to Jalen Johnson, who I like a lot, but I don't see him being like a true number 1 corner. And Trufant's just a Band-Aid. So we're going to take J.C. Horn, one of the best players available at a position of need. And then the Indianapolis Colts at 21. Would love to get a left tackle here, but I'm not comfortable doing it at 21, especially when you can fill another need with a better football player, and that's Kwity Paye. Who I don't think he'll ever be an elite pass rusher, to be completely honest, but I think he'd be a very high-end number 2. So you plug him right in. He's got tons of experience, and that's a massive hole for the Indianapolis Colts. And then the Tennessee Titans at 22, another one of my best fits picks that's really starting to line up for me. So it's going to be Rashad Bateman with the 22nd pick. Again, go check out that podcast where I really raved about why this makes sense. 2 words, Justin Jefferson last year. And then the New York Jets at 23. This will be an interesting one to see the reaction here. I'm actually going to take Gregory Rousseau, who I'm definitely higher on. I think people are looking for reasons to hate him and not believe in him. His tape is freshman tape. He's raw. He's got to learn some stuff. But I'm a big fan of his upside as a run defender. But beyond that, just his get-off. No one talks about this. He was tied for second in this entire class out of like 40-plus edge players, second for 10-yard split. He's got the get-off. He's got long, strong arms, and he's a phenomenal run defender. If he can just develop something, some sort of tools, some sort of skill as a pass rusher, which I do believe he will, I think he still has massive sleeper potential in this class, and I don't understand the massive amount of hate for him over a 3-cone drill. So Gregory Rousseau is, think Arik Armstead for Robert Saleh here. They've got their speed rusher in Carl Lawson, but we know that Saleh values a big defensive end, and I can't think of a better scheme fit than Gregory Rousseau to basically be what Arik Armstead was for him, who they chose to pay, by the way, over DeForest Buckner. Robert Saleh would love to get that guy back, and I think Gregory Rousseau makes a ton of sense to be that player in this scheme. And they don't have another guy opposite of Carl Lawson, who I've talked about you don't want on the field a lot on first and second down because he is an injury risk, and he's not a great run defender. So Gregory Rousseau really spoke to me here when I was sitting there. Then Najee Harris to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of Steelers fans are cool with it. Some Steelers fans are getting tired of it, but still the same there. I do think he would be a missing piece for that offense to add a physical element to the run game with some explosiveness, because they're just never going to have a high-end passing game with Big Ben there. Jacksonville at 25. So this is where I begin what I believe Jags fans are not going to like. But I don't care. This is what I would do. I'm going to take Pat Freiermuth at 25 because I'm scared of someone else taking him. You look at the tight end depth in free agency and in this class, I get that Pat Freiermuth is extremely raw. But guess what? You're not trying to win in year one necessarily, so you got time to groom him with Trevor Lawrence. And there's nobody else in this class that has the prospects of Pat Freiermuth. Brevin Jordan's a nice player, Hunter Long's a nice player, but you can't get that potentially Travis Kelce type player, that Rob Gronkowski type of player. I think he's a better prospect than like Hayden Hurst was when Baltimore took him years ago, and Hurst slowly worked out. So I'm perfectly fine taking him at the end of the first round, Pat Freiermuth to the Jaguars to continue to add weapons for my young quarterback, because that's really what it's all about. I'm not so worried about this defense until I'm making sure Trevor Lawrence has everything he needs to succeed. Then we got Washington, who traded down. It's going to be Trayvon Merrick, who we were thinking about at 19. Yes, you've got the young safety, the 7th round pick last year, who Washington fans are going to be mad. I can't think of his name right now. You got Landon Collins, who's more of that money backer. But Trayvon Merrick, to me, has the upside as that rangy, deep Cameron Curl is the safety. You don't have that range at the top of this defense that does, by the way, run a lot of cover 4 stuff. So that's exactly what Trayvon Merrick can do. Adds just another safety to this group. It's not that Cameron Curl and Landon Collins aren't going to be full-time starters. You can start all 3 of these guys, to be completely honest, or at least they all get significant reps. So I like that pick for Washington. Then the Baltimore Ravens going to take Creed Humphrey. I still see center as the biggest need for this team, other than edge, but I've talked about how the Ravens can kind of find these edge guys later. So it's going to be Creed Humphrey, get back to that dominant offensive line and the elite running game that you had in Lamar's MVP season. Then the Saints at 28. This is going to be where Caleb Farley goes. So the back injuries, I do buy into the fact that it's a risk. It's a significant risk. This is the same injury that Tony Romo had at the back end of his career. But Caleb Farley is going to be engaging in a lot more contact than Tony Romo did. Obviously, he's younger, but this is a legitimate scare. The microdiscectomy, there's a decent chance that it is a pertinent issue and doesn't go away, and he just can't stay healthy. So I think it does slide him down, but he could potentially be the best corner in this class. Not too shabby to pair him there with Lattimore in New Orleans. And then Green Bay going to take, to me, what would be the best case scenario for Green Bay is Asante Samuel falling in their lap. Think off-zone coverage, which this new system is going to be a lot of cover 4 and off non-press cover 3. That's Asante Samuel in a nutshell. They also like to run some man coverage last year. I don't know what the new system's going to look like, but he's a perfect running mate for Jair Alexander. I think that's just the ideal fit for Green Bay in the first round. Then the Buffalo Bills, Azeez Ojulari. My pro comp for him is Jerry Hughes, who's getting up there in age. The pass rush here for Buffalo has been an issue, so a phenomenal fit for Buffalo. And then the Kansas City Chiefs at 31, taking the best day one impact at tackle, in my opinion. That's Liam Eichenberg. They've kind of shown that they don't care so much about the whole, this guy's a guard, this guy's a tackle, arm length, high-end athleticism. if any team has kind of ignored that stuff, it is Kansas City. So Liam Eichenberg does not clear the 33-inch arm threshold that you typically see for tackles, but he does have the athleticism, the polish as a pass blocker, and I think he would really thrive here in Kansas City with the way they run things. And then Tampa Bay at 32, it's going to be Jaelan Phillips rolling the dice on the injury risk here, who would be my number one edge without the concussion stuff. But if any team has the luxury to make this pick and the no risk it, no biscuit mentality to pull the trigger on this, it's Bruce Arians and this staff. Why not? You don't have a single need on this team. You put Jaelan Phillips in there, not only is he a potential upgrade to, I'm just going to say, both of your edge rushers. Shaq Barrett's awesome, but Jaelan Phillips has elite number one, real number one edge potential, like in the Myles Garrett breadth of rushers. That's his potential. So you get him in there. He doesn't need to play full time, and you develop him and rotate him. And I think it'd be a great kind of future pick, but also could help them this year. 3 rushers get on the field. So I think Tampa Bay would be the team, if anybody in the first round, that could pull the trigger on Jaelan Phillips. So that is round 1. Again, guys, hit that like button down below. When we get to 1,000, I will drop rounds 2 and 3. And yeah, we'll see you guys in probably an hour or so. Peace.